If black young people didn't commit so many crimes that they were not out of control in violent ways throughout the country, would the officers have to be so tough on them?
You think the actual, when it comes to crimes?
Can you answer that rather than give me another shot?
No, go ahead.
Would the officers have to be tough on them if they were not so violent?
Why do you have to be tough on one group of kids versus another?
No, just answer that first.
No, that's what I'm asking you.
But
why?
You asked me a question.
I don't think they should.
Would they have to be tough if the blacks weren't so violent?
No.
They would not have to be.
Who's to say? Because I'm not. Are you violent?
No.
Okay, I'm not
so
violent.
The cops are not tough
He's
on me.
not violent.
But they're not tough on me because of that. Crime in the black community, especially with black men and now black girls, black on black crime, is going up. In Chicago, it went up 80%. Police officers pulled back.
Yeah.
If they were young men of character, would the crime go through the roof?
So when you got a society that is being doped, and what I mean by dope, that they're in certain different chemicals into foods and different reactions and like those things like that, I think it can make people more violent, and especially if you're trying to get people to depopulate themselves. And that happens all the time. So it's one of those things like, why is it that only in the black community and Hispanic community that you have a high level of violence?
Are you saying that the violence in Chicago, the black on black violence, went up because they're spraying there?
I think that's one of the things, but also I think numbers are screwed as well. I think if I can get you to fear the inner city, if I can get you to fear and buy more locks, buy this kind of car, buy this kind of gun, buy this kind of safety device, you can scare America into buying. So it's always back to big business at the end of the day.
But you're saying that this black on black violence is due to fear that is really not as bad as people are saying.
I mean, I think it's scare tactics.
Even when I lived in Indiana, it was going on.
What part?
In Gary.
Okay.
And it was going on in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't as bad as it is today because no one dealt with it, so it got worse.
Because you're talking about violence in Chicago, and you're talking about the fact of kids. You're talking about the fact that you got this big 8% spur in violence within a community. So
you don't believe that this is happening, right?
I believe that violence happened, but I believe that if you can say 80 here and there's no kind of violence in the white community, there's none. As many white officers that are killing their wives,
you have
in domestic violence disputes, there's no kind of spike in violence over here, but you got 80% here.
You're making all this up, man.
Pull it up and see.
So a little bit more about you. Okay. You were raised in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes.
Without your father, right?
Yes.
You were raised with your mother, and you grew up in the projects or something?
I grew up everywhere.
In Louisville?
Yeah.
And your mother was on drugs?
Yes.
What was that like for you growing up?
It didn't too much bother me too much.
Why not?
Because I always ate. I always had a place to lay my head. My mom still raised me as a good man. She took care of me. Even though she had a drug addiction, her kids was taken care of. Yeah, there was a problem. But once I was older, when it really hit her, I was 8th, 9th grader, and my mom really got bad on drugs. Right. But she had been on drugs since 1980. I didn't know it. And it was never like that, but I always knew how to take care of myself. My mom was on her own, and my mom got herself clean when I graduated, got my second degree. She was clean. So I think some people, I definitely would have wished I had a daddy there. Yeah,
Where was your father?
Oh, doing his thing. He was married, had a woman. He was married to a lady with like 5 kids. He was raising their family, and that's something you see in the black community. It's a lot of guys raising other people's kids.
I know. Go back to the 1980s. Were you able to be with your father?
My mama never told me he couldn't see me.
So were you able to see him?
Yeah.
Did you see him while
I saw him off and on.
Off and on. And were you close to him at all?
I was close to him because he was my father. I've always been a different breed that you might not have been around me like that, but you're my dad. I respect you. I talk to my dad all the time now since I got older, but he's always going to get that level of respect because I'm a piece of him.
You forgave him for not being
Yeah.
Did you tell him that?
Yeah. Okay. He knows it.
Let me ask, so you told him that?
Yes.
How did you find out your mother was on drugs?
I kept seeing a funny look on her face, and it was weird because I lived in a community out Shade Bark Apartments in Louisville where it was probably 300 families and no dads. There was no dads out there at all. It was all women.
Yeah.
And, you know, and a lot of people forget that in the 1980s, you know, in the 1980s under the Reagan administration, they said, hey, we're going to give you a man and we're going to make you happy. And by doing this, you don't have to worry about nothing. You don't have to worry about them cheating on you. You don't have to worry about anything like that. And they brought Section 8. They brought the new welfare system.
Right.
As part of doing that, you had to kick the black man out the house.
Right. Why do you think that happened under Reagan?
I think it happened because it's under the drug administration. They were pushing drugs into the black community in the 70s, and then in the 80s, it was like, hey, we got them on the streets. Let's lock them up.
But that didn't happen under Reagan. That
happened under both.
No.
The say no to drug, the say no to drug era happened under Nasty Reagan. The say no to drugs, that was under Nasty Reagan.
Let's go back to the welfare thing.
Go ahead.
Hold on a minute.
Go ahead.
Food stamps and government programs. Why do you say that happened under Reagan?
It did happen under Reagan.
Why do you say that?
Because there was more floods. In the 1980s, there was more flood of crack cocaine into the black community than anything.
But what does that have to do with welfare?
And because the new welfare system came under the 1981 Welfare Act. It was a new change. And part of that, you can have two incomes. You can even have an income coming into your family. So the women that were raising kids were single home, stay-at-home moms. They had boyfriends or had husbands that were still working, but they were not married. So they said part of this system, if you're in Section 8, or you're on the welfare system, if there's any kind of income coming into the family, you get kicked off that. So most women, what they were saying, look, hey, I'm not putting up with your stuff, or I'm not doing this. A lot of black men got locked up and got pushed out.
But it did happen under Reagan. It started.
It's a lot. That's why Clinton couldn't even get my vote. Go ahead.
It started with Lyndon B. Johnson.
You're going back. That right there is a little bit different.
No, it's the same. It just
no, it's
grew.
not.
It grew as years.
No, it's not. That's a different.
Let me ask you. Tell us, you had a run-in with the police. Tell us about that.
One of my friends had a party that didn't go so well, so I never walked into the party. I used to just stand outside, and when the people were coming out, a cop car was speeding past, no lights or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, slow down."
You said that to the cop?
Yeah, I was like, "Slow down."
Oh, you said it so nicely.
Yeah, I said exactly like that.
Slow down.
I said, "Slow down."
Slow down.
Yeah, slow down. Okay. Very, very, very simple thing, because you know it's weird. Because I remember going through, and I say don't say weird. I was going through a neighborhood, and I was going like 25 miles per hour. And I remember a lady saying, slow down. Kids playing. People walking across the street. So you're a cop car speeding past without your lights on.
So anyway, you told this cop to slow down.
He stopped. He backed up. He said, what did I say? I was like, slow down, because people are walking past. He got a car and said, come put your hands on top of the vehicle. When I put my hands on top of the vehicle, he said, you're on arrest for public intoxication. I said, what? I said, all right, I get out tomorrow. And that's the sad part about being raised in a black community where cops mess with you all the time. We're okay with getting OR'd and going to fight. Like going, lock me up, I'm gonna get out tomorrow, I'm gonna get out in 8 hours. I go to court, look, dude, I ain't do nothing, dismissed without proper cause, good. One of the things you learn as a black man when you get pulled over and locked up all the time, you automatically put your hands behind your back. And I automatically just put my hands behind my back. And he started pulling over on my elbow. So when he started pulling over on my elbow, it was looking like I was turning towards him. And I was like, man, why you keep pulling my elbow? And he didn't say nothing. Then he stepped over. When he stepped over, I put my feet together like this. And I said, why are you trying to hip toss me? Which is a common thing in wrestling, is a headlock hip toss. When he did that, I went like this and said, hey, why are you trying to hip toss me? And he kicked my legs. When he kicked me, I landed on my face.
And so you ended up going to jail?
Ended up going to jail.
How long were you in jail?
5 hours.
5 hours?
I got out in 5 hours, which is weird.
Do you have a criminal record?
No.
Let me ask, do you believe white police officers are racist?
Some, not all.
Not all. Do you support, you've heard of Black Lives Matter?
Yeah.
That agitating racist black group that's running around the country?
You said what?
That agitating racist?
I don't think it's racist. I mean, there's
not racist. You're right.
Yeah, there's black cops.
Evil.
But some black cops are harder on blacks than white cops are.
Do you support that group?
Yeah, I support any positive movement.
You think
as long as it's positive.
You think Black Lives Matter is a positive group?
I think it is.
If black young people didn't commit so many crimes that they were not out of control in violent ways throughout the country, would the officers have to be so tough on them?
You think the actual, when it comes to crimes?
Can you answer that rather than give me another shot?
No, go ahead.
Would the officers have to be tough on them if they were not so violent?
Why do you have to be tough on one group of kids versus another?
No, just answer that first.
No, that's what I'm asking you.
But
Why?
you asked me a question.
I don't think they should.
Would they have to be tough if the blacks weren't so violent?
No.
They would not have to be.
Who's to say? Because I'm not. Are you violent?
No.
Okay, I'm not
so
violent.
The cops are not tough on me.
He's not violent.
But they're not tough on me because of that.
What cops?
None.
What neighborhood?
None.
It depends on what neighborhood you're in.
But even if I was in the hood, I wouldn't be that way.